When we put things together, we make sure it becomes better. It's all about going beyond. We design spaces where you can live your life, enjoying today's modern comforts and tomorrow's unique luxuries. Your home is in the middle of a neighborhood propelled by progress. At the heart of Bridgetown, the destination estate where the passion for life radiates. Live a life beyond compare in a place that inspires victors. The Velaris Residences. Unrivaled.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being with us today. My name is Kevin, and welcome to this latest Lamudi webinar episode, Finding Resilient Investment Opportunities Amid a Pandemic. This webinar is done in partnership with RHK Land. RHK Land is a joint venture of international property powerhouse, Hong Kong Land, and Philippine real estate giant, Robinsons Land. The country's real estate market started the year with a significant industry development, such as project launches, recovering demand, multiple REIT debut or REIT, among others. We're here to uncover and explore how investor and property seeker trends have evolved, looking specifically at the premium and luxury market. Joining me today is Ms. Sheila Lobien, Chief Executive Officer of Lobien Realty. She will walk us through her insights and forecasts on growth-centered property locations and tell us why it's an absolute hotspot for investments. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin, for the generous introduction. And of course, RHK Land, it's always a pleasure to support you. And again, thank you for the invite.
All right, let's go ahead with the subject, which is about investment. Now in March, you have spoken about the resiliency of the Philippines being reshaped by the pandemic and showing signs of strong market recovery over the medium and long term. Could you walk us through on your forecast and how has the market been as we speak today?
Actually, Kevin, after that March, I think updates that we had, we were able to again update the market, and our recent report last June is more upbeat compared to that one. And I tell you why, because last March, at that time, the vaccine rollout was not that implemented all over Metro Manila and of course in the Philippines. Today is a different story. Aside from the vaccine rollout that's happening all over the metro right now, I'm vaccinated already, and that's good. And many of us are already vaccinated, and we need that so that the economy will open up again and confidence in the market will be back. So aside from that, when you look at the economic fundamentals, again, the GDP from last year, if you'll compare, we went down by 9.6%. And this time, as we speak, the recent one that we've seen, ADB is already forecasting that the Philippines will recover this year and easily at 4.5%. That's the growth that they're forecasting for us. And any growth given this scenario is really great, right? Our economic managers, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and even Secretary Dominguez, they're quite optimistic and they're saying that we will probably grow more than the 4.5%, so 5-6% levels. And if you also look at the unemployment rate, last year, of course, when the lockdown had to be implemented, the unemployment rate was at 18%. Today, it's settled. It's more stable, still down, but it's 9% comparing to the very high unemployment rate in the last how many months. So these are all good signs. That's on the at least the economic standpoint. Other than that, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas also is still supporting, of course, the real estate sector and the Philippine economy by pushing the banks to offer low interest rates. So if you do have a good credit standing, you can take advantage of that. And for us in the Lobien Realty Group, we look at several property indicators if the market is improving or getting better. So when you look at the GDP from construction, last year comparing to where we are today, it has definitely increased. In terms of construction, building permits as well, from June 2020 to today, June 2021, it has doubled. So meaning people are going again, moving out, going out. There are construction happening, fit out work, either building their houses or condominiums, pushing their operation to finish the project. So these are all starting to move again, which again, as I've said, is a good indicator that the economy is slowly moving and getting better. So it's more upbeat compared to, of course, the March update that we've shared.
Thank you, Sheila, for sharing that. Upbeat is exactly what we wanted. Right. Okay. Now, based on the Moody first quarter 2021 trend report, luxury condominium units priced above 20 million attracted the most page views at 21% out of all the property types. Why do you think that the luxury market has remained to be the most resilient during this crisis?
That's a very good question, and I give you several reasons why the luxury market is somehow the most viewed or getting that traction, visibility, and simply because during the lockdown, if you have experienced that last year, and you were stuck in a small condominium with no fresh air, sunlight can't even go in, you realize that it's best to be in at least a bigger space or a luxury condominium if you can afford so, or a single detached homes for some. And some went, and looked for a beach house if you can afford that. I think these are just some of the reasons. Aside from that, many those who have the money, of course, they are starting to look at potential investment. So it's opportunistic in nature also. And some are just really saying that for their mental health, maybe let's start looking at the bigger space, not just for themselves but for their families as well. If you also have a big family, you work from home, your kids are schooling from home, these are the things that will start to enter your mind. And that's why search for bigger space, luxury places is reasonably justifiable. I'm sure those are the key reasons why you've experienced such a pick in search for luxury apartments.
All right, thank you. Understood. Right. Moreover, Lamudi also cited that a 16% increase of leads in the second
Mhm.
quarter of 2021 versus second quarter of 2020 within Metro Manila for properties priced 20 million and above. Although we are still in the midst of the pandemic, what do you think influenced the significant increase in demand?
Yeah. Again, like what I have said, people realize now that after the pandemic, it's good to have a bigger place, a bigger home. And that time last year, right, when the lockdown happened, of course, everyone were so, well, now I would say confused, but stand still. They are, of course, looking at what's going to happen. Today, this time around, it's different because there is vaccine rollout. You somehow know when it will end. Uh, the light at the end of the tunnel is somehow there. And that's why I think the demand is moving. People, of course, realize that in case another lockdown, which we have seen several happen in the past, then a bigger place for their families will be much needed, appreciated. It's good for their mental health as well. So locations within Metro Manila would always be in demand because bulk of the economic activities, they're still centered in Metro Manila. And that's why high-end condos near the CBDs or within the CBDs will always have a market and will always be in demand no matter what happened, especially the new ones. And we'll talk about that later on, Velaris, which address several key concerns of many people who have experienced, the lockdowns, and now they want a bigger place, a more, I would say, a healthier place with lots of air, sunlight, natural ventilation, natural sun. I mean, the fresh air can come in their unit, and so natural cleanliness and filtration will happen inside. So more and more, we'll see that uh, this demand for high end luxury apartments will be seen and will be felt all over.
All right, thank you, Sheila, for that. Now, speaking of location, since you started with it, there's what we call the location as very important consideration. Now, pre-pandemic, a CEIC report comparing the growth house prices by country shows that from March 2015 to June 2020, Philippine property values have jumped by a massive 27.1%. How has this latest economic slowdown affected the land valuation of locations within Metro Manila? And what is your long-term outlook post-pandemic?
Mhm. Well, okay, let me answer that in two points. So basically, even though we are in this pandemic, land values within Metro Manila did not really move down. And why is that? So it's simply because land is finite, and here in Metro Manila, uh, land, almost all the CBDs are bought by different developers or individuals. Very hard to find good property inside the metro. And therefore, if there are people unloading their assets right now at a discount, very few and not enough to pull and to meaning to pull down the current prices of land. So land values somehow up to today steady all over Metro Manila. And if you want to find good deals, you can probably find a few left and right and this are deals that are coming from those who need the cash right away. You can find that, of course, given the current situation, but it's not on average. You won't see that across the market. Now, our view looking, moving forward 5 years, 10 years, long term, land values of Metro Manila will still be at this level, or of course, definitely it will move up because as shared, land is finite and we have a growing population. So many Filipinos now, our population is increasing. More people, more real estate, they will need more land, they will need more condos, houses, and therefore prices of land within Metro Manila will move up, right? And as I've shared earlier, the activities, the center of economic activities here in the Philippines, they're concentrated in Metro Manila. Up to today, 80% of the office market, they're here in Metro Manila, and only 20% are scattered all over the Philippines. So after Metro Manila, probably Cebu, Pampanga, Davao, etc. But the center of all the activities happening in the Philippines, they're still concentrated here in the metro. So imagine that land values all the more will be more and more expensive as you move forward. So that's why we'll probably talk about that later. But buying property today is one of the best actions that you can probably make because today is the best time to scout or get your best deal out there from developers. And I'm sure RHK here will be offering you a good deal if you are really keen to buy a luxury property in the heart of the metro.
All right, thanks, Sheila. Understood. Right, now let's talk about the Velaris Residences. It's the joint venture project of Hong Kong Land and Robinson's Land, located in Bridgetown, just off the vibrant C5 corridor. With its location along C5, access to main roads, it's never too far away from any section of the city, making it an absolutely top-tier destination to invest in. What do you think are the advantages of being in such prime location for both investor and as a tenant?
Mhm. Well, for investors first, right? If you're in a prime location, even if you buy the property in a high market, when the market is up, the price of land in that area will always move up. And today, all the more is actually a good time, as I've shared, because a market is quite soft. Many developers are motivated to sell. of course, so that their whole project will be sold out right away. They are giving so many good deals. So take advantage of that. And a property that's in a developing area, such as, of course, the Velaris here, is always a great one because prices of the property or in a per square meter, it's still very competitive compared to a mature market in another location, right? C5 corridor, as we speak, is we call that a progressive area. It's a developing area, but yet it's in a very strategic location because the project itself, Velaris, is right smack in Bridgetown. And in that area, there are a lot of office developments, mixed use projects. So if you're looking at it on a home buyer or tenant point of view, condo buyer, it's also a very good move because nowadays you've experienced the pandemic, and when there's a lockdown, it's so hard to move around, right? But if you're in such a location, if you're in a center, then everything is within reach. Like the basic needs of everyone. School is there, very near you. There are a lot of schools nearby. The hotels, shopping centers, also just around the area. Aside from that, hospitals, very important today. You have access from there. And the location itself is in the center of four major CBDs, right? There's Makati, C5. It's very near BGC with the new link connecting BGC to Ortigas area. Travel time is faster now than going north. You have Eastwood there. And then if you want to go all the way further north, Quezon City area, diba? So it's really surrounded by these four major CBDs. And that's why it's making that area all the more promising. And if you're looking at long-term opportunity or long-term gain, I think this is one of the best investments that any investor out there or condo buyer should look out for or should really check and analyze if they're in the hunt for a property right now.
All right, thanks for your thoughts on this one, Sheila. And in line with that, there have been a number of notable changes demand as a result of the pandemic. In your recent experience, have you recorded any new priorities for investors and home buyers regarding the design features, particularly of luxury developments?
Right now, priorities of everyone has changed, right? With this pandemic, all the more you realize that to be in a place with everything that you need is very essential, or it's really important. That's why after all these people now, they have the priorities. Number one would be health and safety. And a project such as the Velaris, a luxury project, definitely addresses that. And the advantage of a new project is that they are already looking at all those things for the future, of course, condo dweller. And luxury apartments have open, bigger space, less dense, which I think is now more and more important. You don't want to be in an area wherein you feel constricted and so many people. It's not that you want to avoid people. People would always want to socialize. And that's good about this project. The Velaris has a lot of amenities aside from all the features, which are somehow, I'd say, pandemic proof already because some are touch screen, touchless, or you use RFID to enter your space. And aside from that, there are a lot of other key selling points that people will find very useful right now after they've experienced the lockdowns in the past. No, today you can buy so many things online, and if you're in a great location, I don't think you'll worry about all those things. Plus the fact that your mental health also will be taken care of because you're in a nice location with fantastic amenities. I'm sure you'll be happy. And even though you're locked there for what, hopefully not more than like the first lockdown, right? You don't want to be stuck again inside a small unit for more than 3 months. But I think if you are, if that happens and you're inside a luxury apartment such as the Velaris, I'm sure you won't find it you won't go crazy.
You wouldn't mind as much. Okay, I agree with you. Right. Now, on to the digitalization of many things, Sheila. Uh, Digitalization of many things that this pandemic has actually encouraged us to attain. Real estate developers are compelled to design and rethink smart homes for future home or rather future-proof investments. For instance, the Velaris Residences enable digital connectivity for convenience, such as they have digital locks, smart mirrors, lights control, and so on. From your transactions, do you see such smart amenities playing pivotal roles in the buying process?
Well, definitely, Kevin. Each development would always have unique selling proposition, right? And having this digital thing right now, I mean, all businesses now have to adapt, right? And you have to have a digital component in it. You have to be in social media somehow. Everything has to have that. People, that's why there's this growth in e-commerce because everyone started to pay online, buy things online, and a development that addresses that is somehow, future proofing their project. And in other parts of the world, this is not already new. I mean, they already have this. And that's the beauty of having a developer such as RHK Land. If you look at the demand, I mean, the driver of this project, Hong Kong Land is a very big property developer all over Asia. I think more than a century. They've been in the market for more than a century. Imagine that, no? How many lifetime already? They know what they're doing. And I personally have seen their projects in Singapore, Hong Kong. Beautiful, beautiful buildings, shopping malls. If you're familiar in Singapore, the Marina Bay Financial District, that was the recent one that I've seen and I've entered that. It's really amazing. And having something like that, probably half of that or one fourth of that here in the Philippines is fantastic. And I'm sure RHK Land will be able to somehow deliver the same kind of experience. That's why this digitalization that they will implement in the project will be very important. And the buyers, eventually people who will be residing in that luxury condo will benefit from that. Imagine the peace of mind that you'll have when you can somehow monitor your condo, your apartment, wherever you are. You can control the aircon, the lighting, the access, and that's good. And it's hard to buy peace of mind today, nowadays, right? Health and safety would always be number one. And I think that will be addressed given the features of the project, the fresh air, the sunlight there. In some units, there are balconies. I'm not the best person to sell, of course, the project, but there are all those things are in place there. I've seen the model unit and the quality. If that will really be translated in the whole project, then that's going to be fantastic. It's a fusion of the local developers' expertise, of course, track record, and at the same time, Hong Kong Land's track record in the first world countries in Hong Kong, Singapore. Those are the projects that I've seen personally, and they're also big in other parts of Asia. 18 cities, I think. So if you go check their website, Hong Kong Land, you'll find the Velaris already being featured there. So they are owning the project, and the digitalization feature is something that I'm sure a lot of people will really enjoy, and it's going to be a key differentiating factor for this project. And I'm sure not, I mean, I don't think other developers, if there are very few, would also implement the same.
Right. Thank you for your thoughts on this one, Sheila. Actually, I'll pick up from what you said since you started mentioning about Hong Kong Land, right? So the Velaris Residences is a joint venture with an internationally acclaimed developer, as you mentioned, Hong Kong Land. So it has brought world-class condominium into the local real estate landscape. In your opinion, what can buyers leverage on such investment?
Well, many things, as I've already shared. If you're an investor, then you'll have the peace of mind that the project will really be done in a way that uh, these developers, especially Hong Kong Land, as I have shared, they have this name already, and I'm sure they will not allow that name to be, tarnished, right? So they will, of course, together with the RHK Land, the team itself will make sure that the project is delivered, will be delivered, if not on time, uh, ahead of time, and with all the promises, with all the features that they're telling you. So that world class experience, together with the local market expertise, will really be felt. So that's already one. And if you're an investor, you always look at those things: the track record of the developer, the people behind the project, the location is already a given. So land value, property appreciation will already be a given if you buy a project or a property that's developed by reputable landlords or developers. Plus the fact that the location itself is already good. So that's one. If you're the condo dweller, condo user, home buyer, you will also realize that uh, living in a property developed by reputable developer is different compared to the others. And of course, you'll have bigger space, more amenities. The experience is very important. These developers are taking care of their name, so they want you to feel somehow the same. If you've seen one of their projects, somehow you have to experience that in the other projects, that their name is also stamped in there.
Right. Thank you,
So
Sheila.
that's
Okay,
good for the renters too.
right. Agree. Okay, since you mentioned this world-class excellence, a developer that is world-class caliber, let's zoom out a little bit with this question. A year into the pandemic, strong demand for luxury homes was observed on a global scale.
Mm.
Bloomberg reported that in the United States, the demand for luxury homes is soaring in spite of the economic recession caused by the pandemic. Have you seen any evidence that this global trend is driving the increased demand in the Philippines? And has this been represented by foreign investment versus local?
Well, global trend, because I've seen that news also in the US. All the beach houses, the prime properties are like selling like hotcakes, right? And this pandemic, of course, made the difference between the people with money and the people without. Those who are really in need. But the those who have the money, luxury, those who can afford to buy luxury apartments or a second home or a beach house, that's a different story. That's a different one. And this trend, whether there are people, foreign investors coming in the Philippines, yes, there are. But today, of course, not many, given the current scenario. But in the past, pre-pandemic, different people from all over the world are buying properties. Of course, they can't buy land here in the Philippines, but they can buy condominiums. And we've seen, Koreans, Japanese, Indians, Americans, Chinese, they've been buying. But today, what's really driving the condo market or the residential market in general are still the locals. Bulk of the buyers that we are seeing, even pre-pandemic and up to today, they are the Filipinos. No, the housing market of the Filipinos is still underserved. Many Filipinos, they still have this dream of buying or owning your place someday, right? You work hard, and your dream is to always have your own place someday. And that housing requirement is still being addressed here in the Philippines. So, who are the main drivers who are really buying properties here in the Philippines? And there are still the same. So, number one, the OFWs, people working, the Filipinos working abroad. At the end of the day, they will always put their money back here in the Philippines because they have a family here. They'll buy a place for their kids or for their mom and dad or for their retirement. So at the most of the time, they'll look at condos if they want to be in the CBD. Otherwise, they'll buy a house and lot somewhere, right? Other than that, the BPO, the outsourcing industry, also they have been the employees of this industry have been buying condominiums also in the past and up to today, and they are more and more realizing that having a condo or a place inside the CBD is important because if there's another crisis, lockdown, pandemic, or what, you would want to lessen your commute, right? If you can just walk from your place to the office, then better. It's more convenient, it's safer, it's healthier, you save time. That's why some people who can afford it, they were buying condos, or they bought condos as a halfway home, because some before, our problem was not the pandemic but the traffic, right? And you sometimes commute, what, 2 4 hours in a day, and that's not good for you mentally and physically. So some people, those who can afford, opted to buy condos inside the CBD. It's a halfway home for them. And some really just bought it because they don't want to travel. It's not good for them. They prefer to live inside the CBD, or live where they in the city where they live, where they work as well. So you work, live, and play in one area, and that's why the market boomed. No, the mixed use developments started to boom all over the metro and outside Metro Manila. So that's my answer for that question. Who are again driving this demand? And again, the high net worth individuals, rich Filipinos, right? They do have the money, and these are savvy investors. They will always look for good deals. Opportunities are always out there, and the property market is always one of the safest and one of the most resilient investments that they can make. And many of them are right now looking for best deals because they know that this will be over also. And when the market recover, they will gain a lot, from property appreciation, land value appreciation.
All right, thanks for your thoughts on this one, Sheila. I'm actually now moving to my last question for today, and this is also sort of the closing remark for you, your last say before we end the episode. Sheila, what would your advice be to any investors currently hesitant to commit, and what incentives are there currently in the market that might not be there in 12 months' time?
My advice, okay. Incentives, in terms of incentives, I think, if you are interested with the Velaris, you should talk to the RHK team. They will guide you there, and they'll, of course, I'm sure they'll sweeten the deal if you are already there and really looking to buy a property. Or if you have any other real estate questions, I'm happy to talk to you and address that. But my advice, really, I'm sure I trust all the business acumen and decision making of the people who are watching now and who are looking at luxury properties. These are savvy investors. You won't look at the 20 million price range if you don't have the money. So my advice is really to, of course, if you have hesitations, you can just write it down, do your own study, do your own, of course, thinking, run your numbers. Numbers will never lie to you. You can easily compare, right? Look at the trends of luxury apartments. There are only few here in Metro Manila, and the Velaris by RHK Land is one of them. So if you look at their pricing, compare it to pricing of the others, you'll easily see that the pricing that they have now is quite competitive, given that the area is a progressive area. And then second would be, I'm sure if you do have a good credit standing, today is the best time to take advantage of that. Low interest rates, and your banker can definitely give you a good deal as well. So talk to them. You can also negotiate with your banker. If you want a property, take advantage of your good credit standing, take a loan and buy that property, right? If you can. And then finally, this is me, my personal advice is, before I buy something, if it's within my reach, I would, of course, go there. Real estate is very personal. Buying property is very personal. So I'd go in the area, I'll look at it, of course, study the market surroundings, what's happening out there. You can easily see it with all the cranes, with all the movements there, the infrastructure that's being built, the subway, the skyway, all the connections, the bridges, right? and you'll feel it. And ask yourself, will you live in that area, right? Do you imagine yourself staying there? And if your answer is yes, then that's a good sign. You should look at the property and, of course, look at it over a long term horizon, 5 years, 10 years down the road. What will it be? I've made my personal real estate, biggest real estate purchase or decision back in the global financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. And at that time, many people also were scared because the market is down. You don't know when the market will recover. But savvy investors back then who bought properties in 2009 or 2010, they are today very, very happy because they have already made a lot of money from just the land appreciation, land valuation, right? So it's somehow the same. The market right now is a very good. I mean, it's not a very good situation. Of course, the pandemic is there, the health problem is still there. However, in terms of looking for opportunities, there are so many opportunities out there. And if you have the money, you have a good credit standing, there are good projects out there that you can look at. And the Velaris is one of that. So talk to the team, and I'm sure they'll be able to give you that incentives and discounts that you are looking for.
Thank you for all your professional and personal tips and tricks for investing, Sheila. Right. That concludes this Labudi webinar episode, Finding Resilient Investment Opportunities Amid the Pandemic, brought to you in partnership with RHK Land. Today, we heard from Ms. Sheila Lobien, Chief Executive Officer of Lobien Realty. Thank you for your insights today, Sheila. If you have any questions, please feel free to place them in the comment section below or contact RHK Land directly. Once again, I am Kevin from Labudi, Philippines, and thank you so much for watching.